All right, welcome to the Boss Podcast. We're live here on multiple platforms. Wherever you're watching from, we're live where you are. Um, I'm your host, Fredrick Douglas Bussey, and I am also with my co-host, Mr. Richard Pierce. Richard, today one of the topics we're going to talk about on our first episode is one that our clients generally struggle with. If you look across multiple industries, it doesn't matter who they are, everybody complains about the ability to be able to hire top talent, to be able to hire the best people to run your business, to be able to grow it and be able to be as profitable as possible. And they all struggle with this thing. And today we're going to talk about that. And I'm extremely excited to hear you share your thoughts. I have a few thoughts as well. But I guess the first question I would ask, and a lot of people may not even think about this. They may ask this question, but not actually think about the answer. But why is it that people struggle finding talent?
Great question. The reason why people struggle finding talent is they do not know a optimal framework for finding that talent.
Hmm.
So if you think about it, right? So if you think about it, let's say if you're a dentist and you own a dental practice, or if you own a construction company, or if you own a restaurant, or whatever that business may be, let's
Hmm.
pick the dentists, for example. They go to school to learn how to clean teeth, look at x-rays, keep the mouth healthy, things of that nature. They get
Hmm.
very little, if any, training on how to hire the right person for their business.
Right.
And so, right, and they don't spend that much time doing it. So let's
Hmm.
say, for example, the construction, right? So let's say, for example, the construction company, they spend time doing estimating, performing the actual work, working with subcontractors. They spend 99% of their time doing that, and less than 1% of even that hiring people. So it's
Right.
really lack of experience, lack of really detailed training. And that's what we're going to do today, is just kind of go in detail all the exact steps. Some of these things you've heard before, some of them are going to be brand new to you. So that's, but that is a great question, and you're spot on. That's the number one challenge of every business, is to not only find the top talent, but how do you retain them also. So retention
Hmm.
will be in a different podcast, a future podcast very soon. But today we'll go in detail on how do you find them and how do you hire them.
And for some, while business owners may struggle with finding talent, there may be some owners who are not yet even sure why talent is so important. Knowing the difference, they know when they're struggling with their employees, but you hear it all the time, right? You'll hear people say, you know, people are lazy. Um, they don't have the same work ethic. They're not as good at whatever X Y Z. I can't find any. It's hard to find good help. Talk a little bit about why talent matters. What's the difference between an average player on your team and an A++ player on your team, as we talk about?
Great question. So one of the reasons why your top talent, and I use the word talent versus employees, I use them a little bit of both, and I'll go in more detail there. But the reason you want to have the best employees working for your A plus plus talent is you want to get results through others in your business. Because if you're doing the
Mhm.
majority of the work, or if the business is dependent on you, you've just created a job with a title of a business. Even though you may have an entity, an LLC, S corp, C corp, whatever that may be. So it's vital to get the right people on board, lead them optimally, so that the business will eventually run without you being there, or at least not dependent on you. So you can take vacations, right? So you can retain your customers for long periods of time. And there was
Mhm.
another question. I know there was a couple different. What was the other question in there?
Well, I'm thinking about the fact that sometimes they don't realize how valuable they are, but there's a difference between an average player and an
Yes.
A plus plus player. We talk about A plus plus, but some business owners may not use that language to understand or have an
Sure.
understanding of what that means. So I want to make sure we give some context for that.
Absolutely. So I'm going to break them into three different categories. I'm going to break your employees into three very distinct categories.
Hmm.
So the first one is the least desirable. I call it job, JOB, just over broke. It's kind of a funny acronym. So if you think of employees that will literally cost you money in the sense that they're not good for customers, they could run your customers off, they may inadvertently steal from you. For example, let's say you have a construction company and they're wasting material. What is that doing, right? So if
Hmm.
they're, if it's a restaurant and they don't have good customer service skills, and then the patrons don't come back. So
Right.
the
Right.
right, they're very low productivity level. They they're the typical ones that show up late all the time and complain and et cetera, et cetera. So these are the job, least
Hmm.
desirable in the whole universe. A lot of people hire them because they're desperate to hire, and they hire the first person that shows up because they need somebody. So that's the first one. The second
Hmm.
one is a career, right? Second one is a career. So a career, they're much better than the job category, and they will make you money. They will be productive, yet they're
Hmm.
still trading their time for money. So if someone offers them a little bit more money or a little bit shinier penny, or something's not super convenient for them, then they'll go to a different job, or they're looking for even another career while they're still working for you. So again,
Hmm.
these are kind
Hmm.
of in the middle, right? Has some clarity there. These are in the middle. The top category that is actually less than 5% of the working population is what I call an internal franchise. An internal franchise. So an internal
Hmm.
franchise, they look at themselves as a business within a business, even though they do not have an equity stake in the company.
Hmm.
They're right. They're conscientious. They think and act like a business owner does. They are very engaged at a high level, very productive. I'll use an example of an internal franchise. Frederick, you ever take your family to a restaurant and you get a waiter or waitress that does an incredible job? They remember your order exactly. And if
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
right, and if you've went there before, they remember you. They remember,
Yeah.
"Oh, right, your kids get macaroni and cheese," or whatever that may be. Um, Sometimes you may even remember the wait staff's name and ask for them by name,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Is
Hmm.
do you have somebody like this that comes to mind at a restaurant?
Um, yeah, there used to be a restaurant in downtown Atlanta where we would go, and uh, it's closed now, but it's a Chinese restaurant. We would go in there a couple of times a month on the weekends. And the lady who was one of the owners, she would remember our names, she would remember our family. Um, she kind of saw the kids growing up. We had one, our oldest daughter, and then we had another one. So it was they made the experience very personalized and very customized.
Yes.
So we enjoyed that a lot. Yeah.
Yes. Perfect way to look at it. They made it very customized, personalized, and you remember it, even though it was a
Hmm.
few years ago. So
Yeah.
so right? So that's an internal franchise, and that is what you want in your company, to only have internal franchises. It takes a while to get there, and again, a lot of it's gonna be optimal leadership, which we talked about last week, and that will also be, again, a little bit sprinkled into here about an optimal leadership, and we'll go into a whole separate, show in the future talking about that as well. So those are your three categories, and the job, career, and internal franchise. And today I'm going to go in very specific steps when you running ads, looking for people, and then how to hire only internal franchises. What are your thoughts on those three categories, Fredrick?
Well, when you talked about the job, right, and the fact that jobs cost you money, right, and they will ruin your business. I'm thinking about, in particular, my oldest daughter, she turned 12 and she wanted to take her friends. They wanted to go to the Cheesecake Factory for her birthday.
Sure.
And so we had, first of all, we had to make reservations. Okay, great. So her friend's mom actually made the reservation. But because it was a bigger party, we had to make two reservations. They wouldn't let
Okay.
us, they wouldn't seat us all together. All right. These are the quote unquote the rules. We get there, we all show up, and then they call the first party. So we're trying to figure out who we should get seated. So they're saying, well, the kids can get seated first, or the adults, or how are you going to sit? Well, the kids all want to sit together. The girls
Sure.
all want to be there together, right? That's why they
Sure.
came. So now they're going to have they want to sit the girls and seat first, and we have to wait another 15 minutes before we can get seated. So my
Crazy.
wife and the other mother go stand by the table to wait. Meanwhile, we've got these, and they're kids essentially who are running
Sure.
the wait staff, and so they don't have kids, so they don't understand the concept, right? And so
Correct.
they're very much like, well, this is what we're told to do. This is all I can do. And so they're not really thinking proactively. They're not thinking about the customer experience. They essentially don't care because they're going to be there getting paid to seat people and do what they've always been doing the whole time. But in that experience, we ended up actually waiting nearly 2 hours before we got
Wow.
seated, got
Crazy.
seen, had food. The whole entire experience. I won't go into in detail.
So
I'm gonna
so the
probably talk about it.
chances of returning or recommending that business is very slim,
Right.
right?
The only reason that we would return is because we've also had good experiences there before. But had that been our very first time at that restaurant, I'd
True.
never go back because
Yeah.
it would, and so how many, how many times have we had negative experiences, or have a business owner unknowingly their staff were jobs, and so they were pushing people away as fast as they could get them in the
Yeah.
door,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's one of the challenges. You're going to talk about not hiring the wrong people, which is almost as important as hiring
So
the right
true.
people. It's being able to filter them out, because that was when I think back about it, it was a really horrendous experience. And um, had we not been nicer people, it could have gotten really ugly,
Oh,
right?
yes. Oh,
So
yes. No,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think that's something to look at, and that sort of ties into optimal leadership because it's sort of, again, it's 50-50.
mhm,
If the management or owners of the restaurant would have meetings in minimum once a day. You need it actually minimum once a week, but once a day is even more optimal with,
mhm,
right, with the employees to get feedback in real time and, what's an unusual situation that happened? How can we improve this next time, right? So again,
right.
right? So that's something to but I think that's a great example. The staff didn't even think, well, should they talk to management about it or should they look at it from your perspective? But they did not, obviously, because waiting 2 hours is not optimal by any means and everything.
Let me just I'll highlight this. I'm only picking on it because,
Sure.
to your point about optimal leadership. Optimal leadership, you know, as we define it, is about inspiration, right? It's
Yes.
inspiring people to get the energy out of them. That
Yes.
energy is not just the physical labor, it's also the mental energy to think of creative solutions
1,000%.
to get the ultimate outcome that we want. And I'll give you an example. So there were four of us adults, there were five kids. They kept telling us they couldn't seat us at a table for more than with only four people, which was right next to our kids. But they wanted to seat us at another table, which is across the restaurant, with five people, because that's where our reservation was.
Wow.
Meanwhile, there's only four of us. And so they're telling, well, I can't seat you here because you have to have four people. There are four people there, but your reservation is for this table. So they couldn't think outside the box because literally they were not inspired by leadership to think of alternative solutions. Management had been teaching them follow the rules so you don't screw this up.
True.
Meanwhile, they're screwing it up because they're not able to think more creatively. And so that's the power of not just hiring right people, but learning how to lead the right people and make people be the ultimate version of the talent that you're looking for. I'm speak more about this because I'm telling my own example, but
Sure.
tell us a little bit. If you're a business owner, what's the first thing that you should be doing when it comes to hiring and finding the right talent?
Yes. So, the first thing is you have to look at your culture that you currently have.
Hmm.
'Cause and again, this is like I know, last week we were talking about a secret, sort of, seriously and joking at the same time. So,
Hmm.
these are items a lot often very overlooked in a business. So, one indication of culture is how many employee referrals do you get per month? So, when I say employee referrals, right? So, let's say the restaurant, for example, or construction company, whatever it may
Hmm.
be. So, how many referrals from your employees do you get? They recommend somebody else that's looking for a, career to come work for you,
Right.
and that's a right? That's a huge indication, huge indication. So, you
Hmm.
have to right? So, you have to look at that and then start working on the culture, and again, you're gonna have to hire people, simultaneously, but you don't want to just keep hiring people, having turnover, blaming the people when culture is a huge element of the success of, recruiting and retaining, top people. So
Now
that would be
can I want to ask you a question about that
sure.
because a lot of we hear the buzzword culture, right?
Yeah. Huh?
A lot of people think, well, I've got culture, or how do I change culture, or whatever. But first of all, we're defining what is culture in terms of how they need to be thinking about it as
Yes.
an internal technology of their business.
Yes. So culture is what your employees are gonna do when they think nobody's looking and there's no side effect.
Mm,
So, right? So, for example,
mm,
like in your experience, and again, we'll beat up the restaurant again, but it happens any place, is, they maybe even subconsciously, they didn't even think anybody was looking or there was no real side effect to it. And that's an example of a bad culture, but a great culture tied in with the internal franchise, they wanna make the experience optimal for the customer, so
mhm,
they will right? So they will, communicate with the leadership, they will make exemptions, things of that nature to make it, that customer is so happy that they're gonna tell other people, they're gonna increase their frequency, that they return to the restaurant, things of
mhm.
that nature. So culture it's dynamic, it's evolving, but that's the way it's like the personality of the business. And right? So we've all walked into places and you can tell almost instantly, hey, is everybody energetic? Is everybody positive or not so much? And
Right.
right. And like you were just saying earlier, that's where we talk about optimal leadership. It's
Mhm,
the inspiration, it's the energy inside that person.
mhm.
It's in there. Do you bring it out in that person so that they can operate and be productive at the very highest level?
I love that because it connects the dots. When you were talking earlier, a lot of business owners are really, really stressed out because they feel like they can never step away from their business for a second, right?
True.
They can't take a vacation, they can't relax. Their mind is always racing, thinking about it. So they can barely sleep sometimes because they're always trying to fix the problems. And what you're saying is that culture fixes all of that because even if I'm not there, it's going to run as if I was running it the way that I would want to run my business.
Correct. It's gonna run sustainably. It's gonna run by itself with the right people.
Mm.
Very,
And
very true.
so to that point, then when we talk about, okay, we don't just want it to run, we want it to grow, right? So if I'm running it and I'm trying to grow it, but I don't have to run it and it can still grow without me, what is the key component to that? We talked about culture. Now let's talk about what's the element that allows us to get even greater results than just sustaining it, but allowing it to be able to scale.
Sure. So let's tie into that. I know we've been talking a lot about the internal franchises. Let's talk about some ways to find those people and some frameworks to hire them. So I'm going to again
Mm,
give some people, right? I'm going to give some like insider. You could look at these as best practices, the recipes for success. So
mm,
um, one of the items you want to do is you want to, and I hope everybody has their pen handy out there, is you want to call out to who you're looking for versus saying what you have to offer. I'll repeat this.
mm,
You want to call out to who you're looking for versus saying what you have to offer. Okay.
mm.
So let me give you an example. Let's say you have a construction company. What
Right.
typically, right? What typically people will do wrong is they'll call out to who they're looking for. Well, I need somebody that's run a Bobcat, did framing, familiar working with subcontractors, does estimating,
Mhm,
then they have this whole punch list of items that they're looking for. And that is, saying what you have to offer, not calling out who you're looking for. So
right.
right. So then I'll tell you, here's how you say you're calling out to who you're looking for. We are looking for a person that wants to be part of a growing construction company
Mhm,
with right a growing construction company, and you could even use something like with room for advancement, even something of that nature.
mm,
So right, we're looking for somebody that has great interpersonal skills.
mhm,
So right, so again, you want to look at this as you're looking to like clone who your internal franchise would be for that business.
right.
And right, and that's again, it takes some work to craft that, and but
Mhm.
but again, that's one of the main takeaways there. And
Why is that?
go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, why is that so important to make
Right.
that distinction between calling out? Because
I'm
a
glad
lot
you
of
I'm
people
glad
think,
you
well,
asked. I'm glad you
yeah.
asked that. So let's just imagine. Let's put yourself in the driver's seat of a candidate. So you and I are
Mhm,
looking for where we're a dental hygienist. I'm just creating this up here, right? So um,
mhm,
so let's say you're a dentist. You're looking to hire a dental hygienist, and the dental hygienist is on any major platform looking for a position. How many other dentists are looking for the same dental hygienist? Dozens, if not hundreds, right?
right,
So
right.
so when that candidate is scrolling through all these ads, they all sound alike. They all look
Mhm,
alike, right?
mhm,
And there's nothing that separates them. Well, you need 5 years experience. Well, you must be certified. Well, you must be, a people person or whatever it may be. So,
right,
right?
right.
You must be familiar with this type of equipment or this type of procedure or whatever it may be. And that again, it's very informational, but it doesn't persuade the top, you know, internal franchises to respond, not even reply. And the people
Mm,
that reply, right, makes you think, doesn't it? And the people
right.
that reply are just the career or the job people. And
Mm.
that's right. So again, you've got to look at it from the candidate's perspective. But I'm glad you asked that question. That's a great question there.
So what I'm getting from that is that it's essentially a filtering tool, right?
Yeah.
You want to do two things at once. You want to push away the people that you don't want to hire, and you want to attract the people that you do. And so the people that you don't want to hire are out there. They're just filling out applications. They don't care. They don't care where they work. They're not even
Correct.
thinking about it. I just need a job, right?
Yes.
The people who are career minded may likely be attracted to that, but a lot of times because they're not inspired or they're whatever they got going on, they may or may not necessarily apply to this job. But you want to be able to filter out who potentially at least could be an internal franchise. And I know we'll talk about how you can raise their level,
Yes,
how you can actually create internal franchises, but essentially it sounds like it's a filtering tool to be able to stop wasting time, because
very true.
obviously as a business owner, you don't have a lot of time to waste. How much
Correct.
time do you want to spend interviewing people and sifting through resumes versus talking to great people and getting them in the door so you can get them making more money for you?
Correct. Yeah, it is a filtering tool. And like you said, as a business owner, we don't have a lot of extra time, so we have to make the most of it. And
Hmm.
when you start the initial process, and let's go a little bit more into filtering. Now that you mentioned that, so
Okay.
and again, these are some things I've created over the years. Before I did advising, a side note, I had a recruiting company for 15 years, so I've spent tons of time interviewing thousands of people. So these are again just through experience, pure, in the trenches experience here. So
Hmm.
when it comes to and everybody has their pen there. There's going to be a quiz on this, everybody. Make sure you're taking notes. So, um, so when it comes to doing the interview, you have to think about it. And again, this is almost silly to say, but it's true. You want people that do when you hire people, you want people that do what you tell them to do. So
Hmm.
what,
Hmm.
right? So what better time to start that in the initial interview? So I'll give you
Right.
an example, right? So let's say you first do a phone interview. You're first doing a phone interview before you get them in person, if you need to talk to them in person, but you're doing a phone or a Zoom interview. Watch the clock. You're 8 minutes into it. And then all of a sudden you say, "Oh, hold on, Sally. I got to get back to this, customer. It's very, very important. The time is now
Hmm.
is 11:30. Can you give me a call back at 11:50?"
Hmm.
And if you notice what you did there, a couple things. Because if it's let's say the dental hygienist or construction, whatever that person is going to do, they're going to
Hmm.
be working with other employees. They're going to be working with patients. They're going to be working with a lot of items, and it's going to be some chaos there involved. And what you
Absolutely.
right. So with that, when you've stopped at 8 minutes into it abruptly, you're going to see part of their psychographic profile. You're going to see real
Hmm.
quickly, right? Are they an internal franchise? So, for example, if they're like upset about it, well, why is that? I don't know. Well, you might as well end the conversation there and say they're not a match
Right.
versus versus going into an interview and then hiring them and they put their best what's the saying, put their best colors on or best
Best foot forward. Right. Yeah.
best foot forward. Exactly right. They're putting their best
Hmm.
foot forward. You stopped it in 8 minutes. You
Hmm.
filtered them fast and furiously, right? And
Yeah.
then so let's say they do the right thing. Oh, I understand you've got other patients to, and yes, I'll call back at 11:50. Do they call you back at 11:50?
Hmm.
Because you gave them a time frame, 20
Yeah.
minutes from right? 20 minutes from the time you're talking. You even tell them what time to "Hey, let's jump back on the Zoom call at 11:50." Do they
Hmm.
do it? So,
Right.
so, again, an internal franchise will do that. Guarantee it. You can set your watch. 40-50% of the people are gonna filter themselves and never contact you back, or they'll do it an hour or the next day later. Well, if you tell them
Hmm.
20 minutes and they contact you the next day, you want that person working for you?
Hmm.
No way,
Right.
right?
No
Right?
way.
Like, they'll call you, "Oh, well, I got busy and something else happened." Well, what are they gonna do when they come work for you?
Do the
So,
exact same thing.
yep. So these are $1 million frameworks right there. That's gonna be an absolute game changer. Just again, it's a little unique. It's gonna be outside of your comfort zone if you've never done this before. Yet I have clients
Hmm.
that use this framework all the time, and they say it's an absolute game changer.
Yeah.
So so doing that one alone. And if here's another one. So here's another one. Again, I've developed this through the years. So here's another one. So if you think about it, if someone has instability at home in their personal life, they're going to bring it to work.
Mm-hmm.
You, and you have to have a way to filter that out and keep and find out in a very tactful and legal way, are they do they have troubles outside of their working environment? So the way you do that, and I'm glad everybody's taking notes here, is you ask, I'm curious, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stable is your life? That's all you
Mm-hmm.
ask. I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stable is your life? That's it. And
Mm-hmm.
you'll be surprised what people will tell you, right, Frederick? Some of them, will be, well, because again, you're asking questions they've never been asked before. So they put their wall down. And like you were
Mm-hmm.
saying earlier, you're filtering them. You're filtering them to see if they're going to be a match for your company. So in the number you're looking for is 8 or greater on that stability level. If they're below 8, they're not a match. But you have to be tactful at that. You just can't be like, well, no. You just have to continue the conversation. And so I'm going to give you, that's the secret sauce. I'm going to give you the special ingredient. The special ingredient here is,
Mm-hmm.
let's say they say 8, for example, and you think, wow, this person's great. So they say
Mm-hmm.
8 is stability. Then you say, well, I'm kind of curious, what would make it a 7 or a 6? So
Right.
you're right. So you're going 1 or 2 below whatever number they gave you. Then
Mm-hmm.
they'll share that with you. They'll say, well, they'll be very transparent, when you go with that. And let's say they
Mm-hmm.
say a 7, well, what would make it an 8? What would make it a 9? And again, you're just asking questions like when you go to the doctor, what do? They do all types of testing, right? They do the
Right.
CT scan, MRI, blood work, X-ray. I mean, the list goes on and on. So there's just a couple insights, and that's one of the items that we work with and we go in more detail, but just little frameworks like that will allow you to filter, as you said, Frederick, who your top talent is in the interview process to avoid hiring mistakes.
Yeah, one of the things I love about this is that, and you said this to me on multiple occasions, right? That people who go to interviews are actually usually more skilled at interviewing than the business owner is,
True.
right? So we're running our companies. We don't have time to interview people. That's the last thing we want to be wasting time doing, because unless it's a dire need, then we would much rather be doing things that are going to make us money. And so that doesn't feel like a thing that will. But what you're saying is that going through this process allows us to close that gap, right? So I don't have to be an expert at interviewing people. I just have to know how to ask the right questions to get the right information to let me know this person is going to be a good match for the culture. This person is going to be great for our team. This person is going to, like you said, do what I say. But not just that, they have the right mindset and they have the right skill sets mentally and emotionally to be able to help elevate my company. And a lot of times, because people are just getting some standard interview questions and doing the, like you said, the informational framework where they're just, let me see how technically skilled they are, right? What would you do in this
Correct.
situation?
Correct.
They're, what have you done in the past jobs? And you're saying this is not about just the work. This is about the person finding the
Absolutely.
right people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And to tie into that, there's 2 types of skill sets that people have. It's hard skills and soft skills. Hard
Right.
skills and soft skills, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the hard skills are, can they drive a bobcat? For example, do they know how to wait on tables? Something of that, do they have experience with that? The soft skills are the people skills. And 94% of the time, you can train the hard skills. There may be some experience necessary, type thing. Yet a lot of times you can train those. The people skills, you can't train those. Those are ingrained, right? People start getting those when they're what, 3 years old or 5 or whatever, some young age and everything of that nature. So
So we had a little technical glitch, and so just when you said you were going to tell us a secret between the hard skills and soft skills, you cut out. So could you track back about 30 seconds?
sure, absolutely. Absolutely. So there's hard skills and soft skills when you hire
Right.
somebody. And
Mm-hmm.
people often, like you said, that little checklist, they're looking at only the hard skills. So, for
Right.
example, let's say it's for a restaurant. They're looking for someone that is familiar with a certain POS system or has worked at an Italian restaurant or waited tables before, something of that nature. So, those are
Mm-hmm.
hard skills.
Mm-hmm.
94% of the time, you can teach those hard skills, like with a specific POS system. The
Right.
soft skills, right? The soft skills are the people skills. You can't teach
Mm-hmm.
people skills, right? So, you know, so that's what you want to look for majority of the time is people skills. Sometimes there's certain hard skills they have to bring to the table. I understand that. Like if it's a dental hygienist, they have to have training and certification for that and some experience. Yet the people skills are very, very vital. And
Mm-hmm.
watching the time here, I want to get into the mistakes people make when they hire. It made me
Yeah,
think
let's
of it,
do that.
right? It made me think of it when you said, Frederick, is business owners don't spend much time interviewing. Sometimes the candidates have spent more time on interviews than the business
Mm-hmm.
owner actually interviewing people. So one of the mistakes to not make is hiring friends and family only.
Mm.
Because when and it happens in a lot of small and medium businesses, they
Yeah.
hire friends and family only because 'cause they're not talking to other candidates.
Mm-hmm.
They're influenced wrong. They think, "Well, I like my cousin. They're really good. They went to my wedding," or whatever it may be. So so
Right.
you
Right.
right? So you have the wrong influences there. You're not doing an accurate, um filtering when you hire them. Plus, subconsciously, they think they can get away with things because, "Oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
my cousin.
Mm.
That's my neighbor, right? I went to, college with, Cindy," or something. So, that is a big mistake that people make, business owners make. Another mistake they make, you're trying to sell the position before you qualify the candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something you do not want to do. You don't want to set in there because you believe in your company and you probably may have started it from the very beginning. Now you have 10 employees or more, and you're like, well, we've really grown and we're the best construction company in the Midwest. And you just because you believe in your business, which you should, yet you want to qualify the candidate before and then you merge into it as you're hiring, that person. Don't start selling them and, trying to convince them to come to work for you before you filter out that candidate. So that's another item there, and another one too. And again, this is going to be one of these secret ingredients. This is a special ingredient in the secret sauce.
Mm-hmm.
People do not always perform how they did in the past. People do
Mm.
not always perform how they did in the past. Because I'll give you an example. Let's say you're looking for a salesperson. You're looking to hire a salesperson. And
Mm-hmm.
for 20 years, they were the vice president of sales at, some very successful company.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're looking to come to work for you. And you think this is fantastic. They were the top salesperson of the century over at some other company. They're going to come to work for
Mm-hmm.
me. Well, what you're going to find out, it's just like if you think about it, do you live the same place you did 20 years ago? Some people do,
Mm-hmm.
most people don't, right? Do you
Right.
have the same car? Do you have the same clothes? Do you have the no? So you want to look at that. Does it is it a possibility that they have some of those skills still? Yes, yet things could have changed in their life. Their skill sets, technology could have changed, their connections, the industry. So don't look at just a resume thinking that is
Hmm.
the answer. That resume is crafted to put them in their best light. So that's another mistake. And so we went through 3 so far. The fourth one, don't hire them because they have a similar personality to you. That's a big mistake,
Yeah.
right? That's a big
Right.
mistake, especially when people have less than 20 employees. And once you get past, I'd say roughly 8 to 12 employees, you start to realize not everybody's going to have your same personality. You may
Right.
hire, let's say I'll go back to the salesperson for an example. You can hire an introverted salesperson that is phenomenal,
Hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
Because they listen to people. And
Hmm.
they're a lot about building relationships. So that could be an example. So let's say you're a very extroverted business owner, like Fredrick and I, we'll go talk to everybody. but so if you're a business owner that's very extroverted, and you get a introverted salesperson, employee, whatever it may be that you're looking to hire, you may think, well, this person's not like me. Well, think about the large companies that are successful. There's lots of different personalities that go into that equation. So
Yeah. No, those are all great points because, again, most business owners, like you said, they're in the trenches. They are in their own heads, and so they've seen things from their perspective. Being able to get a 10,000-foot view, to be able to understand things from the interviewee's perspective, right? You're looking for this talent, and one thing that I think that a lot of business owners have not, and it's not their fault, right? But they have not spent enough time understanding the way that top talent thinks.
correct.
There's a way that these people think that they need to be able to have uh, certain insight to be able to attract those people. It's so important because your top talent, like you said, it's about 5% of those people who are internal franchises, right? Of the total workforce.
Yes.
5% means that they're rare. If they're rare, that means that they don't think like the majority of your other employees have or will if you don't yet have a team of internal franchises. And so if they don't think that way, you're not tuned into recognizing that. Also, the way that other people think pushes in franchises away. Because what? We want to be around people that are like-minded and think like us at the
So
level
true.
that we're thinking and performing,
So
especially if
true.
you are an internal franchise.
Yeah. Which makes me, I know we had a client recently, again, we keep all clients confidential, but we had a client recently that they made a mistake. They would take their candidates and have them talk to the existing staff and see what the existing staff thought. Don't do that. I can tell you. Okay. So, so again, I just want to tell people, and one of the things we do when Frederick and I advise business owners is we tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. I'll
Right.
repeat that, right? We tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. So
Hmm.
I just think I think that's very important. So if you've noticed some of these things in our show last week and this show and shows going forward, they're going to be unique. They're going to be different. It's not for everybody. It's only for business owners that are truly ready to get better results in less time. Don't do
Hmm.
Einstein's definition of insanity. Expect different results doing the same thing. So if you're ready for, again, some unique frameworks, definitely. And I want to say this too. I'm watching the time frame here. Is you can go to bosspodcast.com. We have a free uh, business tool that we will mail out to you, USPS. So reach out to us, and we cover shipping, everything, because we're here to build long-term business relationships. And if you're interested in getting professional business advisor that will walk you through every step of any challenges you're going through, go to gatewaybusiness.com. Gateway business.com, and you can reach out to us. Do we have any questions, Fredrick, or anything that's popped up?
I think no, I think people were too busy taking notes to ask questions.
Yes.
Well, I'll take this opportunity here. If you watch this episode and it spurred more questions for you, drop one of them in the comments below. Let us know. If you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, drop a comment and let us know you're watching it with a hashtag replay. Or if you want an even faster answer, go to bosspodcast.com and register there. Follow us there so you can send us a message. You can request the business tool as well, or you can schedule a call with someone. You can kind of get your questions answered in a more personal environment, a one-on-one environment where you can get that support that you need to be able to grow your business. Look, we're here to help you multiply your business while working less hours every week, right? It may sound too good to be true for some of you who have been growing and working so hard, and you love the work that you're doing, but you love to be able to grow without having to work as hard, or could be able to grow faster while working less hours. And so we want to be able to support you in doing that. We're doing that for hundreds and hundreds of clients. Richard has been doing this for almost 20 years and almost 1,000 clients in his own personal resume as well. So there's a ton of support, ton of frameworks, things you're not going to find everywhere else, and we're going to be here to support you on that. We've got this is a probably a season-long conversation that we could be having just on this alone. We're not going to get to all of it today, but hopefully those of you who have been watching have gotten some great information. There's always a pop quiz, so tune in again for the next episode so we can get that for you. Richard, any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
I would just say again, the business ownership is a very lonely career. So, right. So when you own a business, you don't have anybody to talk to. You can't talk to your employees, your customers, your vendors. Your other half a lot of times doesn't understand because they're not in the business day to day. And there's a lot of right. And there's a lot of information out there, yet it misses a lot of the steps in between. And when we work with clients, right? When we work with clients, we customize it to walk them through every step of that journey. And that's what we're here for. So again, just to refresh what Fredrick said, reach out to us, gatewaybusiness.com, and we can schedule a one-on-one Zoom call. The first call, there's no obligation, no charge to see if you're a match. And we're focused on business owners that families are number one priority. They want to create and grow a business for generational wealth. So we work with, solopreneurs, a few of them, primarily business owners between 5 and 50 employees. Some are a little larger, but that's kind of our sweet spot there. So reach out to us and turn in for future episodes.
Sounds good. Thanks everybody who stopped by for a second. My big bro, Shannon Austin, who dropped a comment earlier. Want to thank everybody for spending the time, the hour, a second, whatever it was. If you didn't get a chance to catch this, you're just catching the tail end, rewind it. It's live now, but it will be on replay in just a second. So thanks to everyone for checking out the Boss Podcast, and we'll see you next time.